Oh. All right. Okay. I'm going to start talking for you guys so you have this, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Okay, kids, Coach Patrick here, Endurance Nation. I'm going to welcome you to a weekly coach chat. Thank you, those of you bearing with me for the technical difficulties. Today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about using bike volume as an opportunity to boost your fitness mid-season. So one of the biggest challenges that we have as endurance athletes is that we spend a great majority of our time constantly maxed out. And the peak of max out energy output time, lowest window between workouts, lowest recovery time is the summer. But of course, that's just a period of time when you and I, type A athletes, are trying to make the most out of our training and trying to find a little bit more speed. Now, of course, when I talk to a typical triathlete, they'll tell me, well, I'd like to be faster with the swim, the bike, and the run, which is awesome, but also simultaneously impossible. When you get in season, the biggest changes you can make typically to things related to race performance is around technique or around fitting. So for example, technique would be improving swim fitness. A lot of times you can get better at swimming in open water, and that just gets accomplished by spending more time in open water, getting comfortable in your wetsuit, learning how to pace yourself, regulate your core body temperature, stay happy in the water, right? So the better you get at that, the better your performance will be over time. But when it comes time to your overall race performance, the best place that we found to do this type of mid-season work is on the bike. And one of the reasons why I'm bringing this to the whole team as a point of output is that the bike is accessible to everyone. I don't care if you are a beginner or a veteran, if you're looking to finish your first race or you're looking to PR and get to the World Championships. Inserting bike volume is a great way to increase your total system stress and to see benefits across the board aerobically than any other discipline. Adding volume in the swim, we simply can't add enough and your shoulders wear out because the technique is so critical. Adding volume on the run is wicked dangerous. Overuse injuries abound, and not to mention the fact that the recovery point for the run is so long. You do a hard bike workout, 2, maybe 3 days, you're back at it. You do a hard run workout, that stays in your system. And the longer those runs get, especially when we're in season, the more and more costly those runs become. And the net is you end up with a cumulative level of fatigue from which you will really not be able to recover in time to peak for your race. Now, another set of reasons why doing the bike is super important is because we spend the majority of our time on race day on the bike. So getting more comfortable on your bike, more confident on your bike, you have a better sense of fueling. A lot more time on the bike means you're going to have more highs, more lows. You get a better understanding of what your limits are. Nuances of shifting, pacing, all those elements come into play on the bike. And getting better at even those smaller incremental things can make you faster. Forget about the fitness side of things. Even just being a better bicycle rider will make you faster on race day. Okay. Totally apropos that I am wearing my cycling kit here. Hold on. Bam. Endurance Nation. Having just gotten off the bike myself. So what does it mean to put in a healthy chunk of volume on the bike? Well, the important thing, we have resources in the training plans, as some of you have noticed here in the chat. We have big bike week plans, big tri week plans for you as well. And those of you on the iron distance plans, the full distance plans, can see some more volume in weeks 15 through 18 of your training plan, commensurate with what we're talking about here. Now, what I'm speaking about more indirectly is to say, hey, how do you take in charge of your training and add some more cycling? So anyone can do more cycling anytime. And the way that I recommend you do it is to go back and take a look at your regular weekly cycling volume, okay? Go back for like the last 6 or 8 weeks and then take a look at that cycling volume and give me a weekly average, okay? Have you been averaging 100 miles, 200 miles? What has that number been? And when we know what that number is, then we know that where we want to go off of that number to create significant stress in your system, okay? Generally speaking, doubling your weekly mileage on the bike in the context of a bike push is a great place to start. So if you're normally riding, let's say you do 3 rides for 100 miles a week, you can go out and do 200 miles. That's getting 2 weeks of training, but in a very short block of time. Not just a week. I'm talking about Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you're getting 2 weeks of cycling in 4 days, 14 days to 4 days. That compression of intensity leads to some significant aerobic development and training stress on your body, which is what creates the impact, okay? So there's a couple different things happening here. Number one, we have to know where you're starting from. That's your baseline. That's your weekly cycling volume on average. So if you're someone who's a bit of a stud and you're already putting up 200 miles, we're talking close to 400 miles of cycling. The bigger the number, the more days you can have, but then the impetus remains the same for you, okay? So number one is setting that baseline. Number two is understanding how close or how compressed you want those workouts to be. The benefit of the training of this bigger block of cycling is the closer those workouts get together. So for example, if you told me you could do 200 miles, but it had to be, 80 on Monday, 40 on Thursday, and 80 on Sunday, I'll take it, but that's not as effective as 80, 40, 80 as 80 on Friday, 40 on Saturday, 80 on Sunday. Compressing those workouts together is what shoots your training stress up super high and creates that opportunity for adaptation and then forces you to recover and then grow stronger. If you have a longer break between these longer sessions, what happens is your body has time to recover between them. And as a result, your training stress will drop and then it will go back up again. But now it's got to go back up again. I think of it like climbing a mountain. Anytime you and I are climbing a mountain, I don't want to sacrifice altitude. If I've already climbed 1,500 feet, I don't want to have to go down to 1,300 feet to get back to 1,700 feet. That's 600 feet, right? That's an extra 200 feet of climbing. I got 200 down, 200 up, extra 400 feet of climbing. That's awful. So instead of doing that, I'd much rather find a way that always keeps me going up. And similarly, you want to think about that here for this bike work, which is to say, that we want to compress this larger volume period of time into fewer days. So it doesn't have to be a week at the outset. It could just be 3 or 4 days. Take a look at that baseline volume, come back to me in the microform and say, hey, my baseline weekly volume is X. I want to do Y. I'm thinking about doing it in 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Give me some feedback, Coach Pete, and I can help you out. But the idea is that these workouts are generally compressed, okay? Now, the next element of this bigger bike block is to tell you how to work these workouts. These are not workouts meant to be done at really any high level of intensity. If anything, they're done more at that Ironman level, or 68 to 72% of your intensity factor of your FTP, which is 68 to 72 IF. So you get a sense of like, hey, this is an all-day pace. As long as I'm eating, I may need to stop once or twice, I'm good. But you should be strong, and you should be able to finish well every single day. The more days that you have to train in those workouts as they get longer, the more and more fatigue you have, the harder and harder those sessions get. So if you start too aggressively in that first day, you're going to undermine all the work you'd be able to do. Remember, the end of any workout, the end of any interval, the end of this bigger cycling block, that last day is more important than the first day, because it's the work you're doing on the last day that's fundamentally changing your muscle structure, building new pathways for oxygen, challenging you mentally. All of that goes great. And we don't want to finish that last day, going down, crap in the bed and riding at 6 miles an hour all day. That's not a ride. That's, just you and me hanging out. So instead of that, we want to pace yourself accordingly. And when you're doing that, what I tell people is, generally speaking, go out, find new routes, ride with people you don't normally ride with, so you're kind of out of your normal zones and testing yourself against benchmarks, and have fun. Just get out there and explore and have fun, and only worry about the last hour of each day. The last hour of each day, I'd like to see a nice steady ride. That doesn't mean go up to zone 3 or zone 4. It just means really, really steady. So no more variability, no more coasting. You just kind of stay on the gas, make that last hour your best hour. And I'll see it because your heart rate will start to increase over that last hour. If you get that last hour and that heart rate starts to drop, I know that you've either not fueled properly, or you're carrying too much fatigue, or you didn't pace yourself well enough early on, and the data won't lie, okay? So we talked a little bit about the pacing stuff. The next piece, the sort of final piece here in this big bike block, is to think about nutrition. I can't say enough. You are eating on day 1 to ride well on day 4. You can't just approach this as 2 bottles and a Snickers. Let's go. I'll ride for 4 hours. Yes, you could do that for one 4-hour ride, but you can't do that again tomorrow, and you can't do it on day 3, and by day 4 you're done. And if you want this higher intensity, or rather higher stress block of training to be successful, we've got to be able to back it up after some recovery with more work. And all of that comes out of better nutrition. So you definitely want to pace yourself properly so you feel better about that level of work, and then you can carry that into the next block of your training, okay? So to recap, number 1, we want to know your baseline number of weekly miles, and we're looking to go somewhere between 1.5 to 2 times that number as your stress, okay? Number 2, we want that block to be as close together as possible in terms of day, not spread out across the week, but rather close together. Number 3, pacing yourself is super critical. All these rides have to be easy to steady, focusing on that last hour. And number 4, you've got to eat like a champ all day long on the bike so that you can be successful. You can mind your calories elsewhere, but when you're riding, you are eating and drinking so you can be successful across all these sessions. Now, during this time, of course, you're going to want to swim and run. I recommend you don't do it. If your workout is longer than 3 hours, don't do anything else, please. There's just no upside. You can't absorb it. That's only some tiny little voice in the back of your head that's telling you that you need to swim or run because you're a triathlete. You don't. You're putting in 2 weeks worth of cycling in 4 days or 5 days. The run and the swim can wait. The swim will be a great activity for you to do on the recovery side, and the run you can get back then as well, okay? So what I recommend people doing, speaking of recovery, is if you do like a 4-day block, we're looking at a 4-day recovery cycle right after that, okay? So it's 4 days of good work, 4 days after, and that means 4 days of practically no cycling. Day off, swimming, short runs, etc. Maybe you got a long run you need to get in there. Generally speaking, during your training week, you'd want to get your long run done before you embark on this bigger block. But that's what we're looking for. The big tri week, which some of you have seen out there as I wrap this up for you, the big tri week is meant to be something that comes after the big bike week. Big bike week comes first. If you're successful and you've recovered, a couple weeks later, we can talk about doing a big tri week. But I don't want you to be doing swim, bike, and run all in the same day for consecutive days at large volume sets. until you've proven that you're an advanced athlete and you have successfully achieved your goals of doubling your weekly mileage in that bigger bike week. Okay? Hopefully that's super helpful to you guys. Let me see what the questions are here very quickly. All right, I know Arnold, I know you asked about using that big bike week. That's a good template to start, and I would suggest that you take that template, put it into your microform, draw up what you're thinking, and I can get back to you with some more specifics. Arnold wants to know, does the Lake Placid camp count, or is that more execution than volume? No, the Lake Placid camp is kind of double whammy. You're going to have a lot of training on the bike, and then you're going to add the learning on the other side of it. So it's a great place to be, and it's a great early season volume pop for you. So you could do that first, and then some people may go on later and do, instead of just 2 days of big biking, they might do 2 or 3. Okay. Brian's question. Brian, great question. Can I do this outside only? Can I do some on the trainer, all on the trainer? What does it look like? Yeah, sometimes you've got real world constraints and you can only get so many days in. If you have to do it on the trainer, you can. Excuse me. I apologize. You can do it on the trainer. However, I encourage you to spend a lot of time in and out of the saddle on the trainer to kind of give yourself some diversity. And you may need to end up splitting those rides, morning and evening to get it done. Again, it's more about accumulated time. So I'd rather that we found a way to make, Thursday morning, Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday night, Saturday morning work for you than to have you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all in the morning, and then Saturday, Sunday, if that makes sense. Okay. Arnold, yes. The Berkshire Bash would definitely qualify. That's a big cycling block. But if you want to sign up for a training camp like that, you should definitely reach out to me. I haven't had a lot of interest in the Berkshire camp right now. In fact, 0 interest. So I'm not sure I'm going to be putting that on. But something similar to that, or a similar cycling camp like that, will get it done for you. But there's also lots of other cycling opportunities out there. Plenty of them, say in Georgia even, that are closer to you and will be excellent work for you on the bike. Okay. But that said, gentlemen, I'm sorry I was late, but I'm going to have to turn this off. I've got athlete calls that started at 12:30 that I've got to jump over and hit. But I will save this recording and put it up. If you do have additional questions, go ahead and put them in the micro forums for each of you. I'll put this up in the general discussion forum, and we can talk a little bit more about the bike volume and what it means, and hopefully get some of your fellow teammates to contribute as well. All right? Thanks again for your patience, and I apologize for the technology issues there at the start. One of these days I'm going to figure this thing out. Okay, see you guys.